right, all. So the last thing I'm going to talk about when it comes to Canvas is, a lot of times when we've been building these worlds, we kind of jump into the world, but it'd be kind of nice to have like sort of a start screen or a kind of a world where like, or, a place where we can kind of um, get some information or set some settings before we do anything. And I'm going to show you guys kind of how we can do that. Now, we can't have a flat screen, but what we're going to, like that overlay, like we might for a game for Android or something. But what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys a technique we can kind of build. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of set up my world. And I have a place for the people to stand on. It's just this plane here. But actually, what I'm going to do is turn it off so that it does exist. You just can't see it by turning off the mesh renderer. Okay. So it is there. It's just invisible. Okay. And then we're gonna make a new skybox to kind of like make this kind of an interesting kind of vagueness that we kind of exist in. What I'm gonna do is make a new I'm gonna make a new material. And what I'm going to do, let's go under material. And what I'm going to do is when we make this new material, I'm going to call it game start skybox. Okay. A skybox, if you remember, is that thing that goes around your world. What I'm going to do is instead of using the standard or the universal pipeline shader, I'm going to go under skybox and we're just going to use, actually, let me change that. I'm going to use custom skybox or gradient skybox. And what this is essentially going to do is make a gradient that kind of goes around your whole area. It's defaulting to kind of yellow and blue if you want to change that to something else. So maybe I'm going to do like a very techie kind of colors here where it's like, I don't know, let's do green and kind of, I don't know, maybe something like this. Okay. Now what we're going to do is apply this to our world. And if you remember, the way we do that is by going under rendering lighting. And I'm going to go under where it says environment and see where it says skybox, which is this. I'm going to change this from the default to the one that we just created called game start skybox. And should be alphabetical. There it is. Okay. If you don't like the colors, go back and change the colors. I don't know. It's fine. I don't know if it's my favorite. You can kind of play around. Kind of like it a little darker, but you do you. You can play around with intensity too to make it kind of brighter. Okay. All right. So anyway, we're going to start in this sort of vague world. Can I go back? Kind of like the default, but whatever. I don't think if I can go back to that. Yeah, maybe not. Cancel. 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 Could do a reset. Yeah, I kind of like that better if I'm not. So yeah, I don't know. You can figure out whatever colors you want, but I kind of like this one better. All right, what I'm going to do is we're going to build, let me turn this back on for now, actually, just so we can kind of tell what things are. And I'm going to make a new empty, and I'm just going to call this start menu. And the first thing I kind of want to do is add some text. And it doesn't even have to be text that's like associated with the canvas. You can just literally go to game object and then go under 2D object, or sorry, where am I trying to go to? Sorry, 3D object text mesh pro. I'm just going to add that. And you can see it kind of just adds some text to my world here. So let's say this world is called VR game world. Okay, not a super creative name, but let's just pretend that's the name of it. And I don't know. Something like that. So you can kind of get a sense of like where it is here. Okay. So I'm just gonna kind of pull this back. Actually, I kind of want to, maybe it'll be smaller there. And I'm just trying to kind of put it within the field of view. Let's use a better font. Let's use Zendots. All right. That's fine. All right, and let's just say for this, let's say I want to have a start button that's kind of like right here. And when you hit the start button, it's going to, go to the first level. So this is like its own level. I'm in scene 9 here, and let's just for the sake of argument say we go to scene 2, the row your boat one. Okay. So what I'm going to do, so I'll just call this like game title or world title or whatever, title or whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to add now I'm going to actually add the XR canvas. Because this is the part, you can't really have a button without a canvas. And once again, I'm going to kind of set this to like 300 by 150. I kind of like that as a size, 2 by 1. And I'm going to put this in 2D mode. Just kind of, all right, let's add the start button here, and I'm going to go to UI and let's do button. Oops, button. That's what I want right there. And I'm just going to say, okay, so this is the button I want, start world. Oops. Let's do this one. Okay. And I'll change it to white. And what I'm going to do is, so I'll call this like button text. I'm going to get rid of this white background, which is essentially this UI sprite. So you can see I could actually try different stuff if I wanted to. You can make your own. So that's kind of the default there. I kind of wish they had just had I should make my own, but I just kind of, what I really want is just kind of like a thing that goes around the edges. I can draw that really quickly. I just set it to none. Oops. Let me set that to none. And all right, so then there's no drawing, there's no material. I could make that a different color. I'm just going to kind of make this semi-transparent. So this is kind of what it would look like. And the button would have highlight color. So let's do like a very light peach when you highlight the world. All right, let's make it red actually. All right, and then the main thing is what does the button do, right? And I have a script called Next Level that I wrote for you guys. And we did this before when we did a Unity refresh, which was you can write a script that tells Unity to go to another scene. Okay, there's a couple things you need to have. You need to have the scene management this using, and what this essentially will do is bring in the scene management, which basically means it's going to bring in a bunch of code and functions that have to do with scene management. I then made a function called go to level, and then I said the specific name of a, a level, or a scene. So what, this was scene one grab or whatever I called it. Let's say I wanted to go to, you could also do it by the build index, which if you remember is like, if you build a bunch of scenes, it goes index 0, 1, 2, 3. So either way would work. So let's say I want to go to, let's do the 3 climbing. I kind of like that one. So when someone starts the game, 3 climb building. Okay. So I'm going to save. And we need to get this code into the game. And the way I basically do it is I like to just have a little empty called code, which I just made from scratch. And then I apply any code to that I may want to run as like a selector, you know what I mean? So sorry, just wait for this to finish updating. Okay. So here, if I select this game object code that I created, sorry, it's taking forever. There you go. All right, here's, I'm going to add that next level script that I created. And then what I'm going to do is let's go back to the button. So what happens on click, which means what happens when someone clicks the button? Well, let's run the code object. And from the code object, we're going to run the next level function. Go to level. Okay. So what that means is it should go to the level 3 or the scene 3 that I said. Okay. Now, there's another thing we have to do, which is when we do our build profile, you need to make sure in your scene list that all of the appropriate items are there. So what I'm going to do, we're going to add scene 9, but then I also need to add in this one because we're going to go from scene 9 to scene 3. Okay. There you go. And so this should work. A couple other things that I did, just so you're aware of it. First thing, let's go back. I'm going to turn 2D mode off. Let's turn this off in terms of its mesh renderer. That means that you don't see the material, which basically makes it invisible, even though it's there. The other thing is when you set up your X-Rig, notice that I do have locomotion and I do have continuous turn turned on, but I don't have the movement. So there's no way to move. Like I can't move forward or backwards. And that's by design. I don't really want I want people to be able to look around because that creates a sense of 3D, but I don't want them to move. The other thing is also under the Ray interactor, which is typically how I suggest doing this instead of a direct interactor, is make sure the UI interaction has been turned on and that the Ray interactor has the UI. And so that's so that if you select the button, you can press it and then it should go to the next level. If you don't do this, you'd be able to point it at the button, but selecting it wouldn't engage with it. So just make sure that this is turned on in terms of the select under UI press input, okay? If you're scrolling, make sure that the scroll input is set here as well. Okay, we're not going to do that for this example, but you could. Okay, so try this out. And what should happen is you should have a world. And then when you point it, you hit the button, you click, and it should take you to that next world. And that's kind of like, we could kind of do this where you could have text. You could say something like, built by so-and-so. So if I wanted to add some text here, I don't know. I'm just going to add some more text. Built by David Hurwitz. I'm just going to make this real small. Whatever you want to do. Yeah. So, you could kind of play around with this and come up with some interesting kind of ways. I could add graphics to this, I could add different things that will just kind of, make the world interesting and that kind of stuff. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna add a line. So, I'm gonna add another panel and I don't even know. Let's make this panel like super thin. Let's make this all the way thick. You know what I mean? There's that line, and then I'm just going to drag it down. I don't know. Or whatever. There's different things you could do. I could bring in graphics and things like that to kind of, maybe there's a graphic I want to place here or whatever. Okay. So let's try this out and you should see it work. All right, Owls, this is just exercise 9. So here is you can kind of look around. Notice there's no floor. We don't see anything. We just see the sort of the menu here. And I can see everything. There's my button. I'm going to click on it. And boom. Now I'm inside exercise 3. Okay, just what I wanted. All right, so that's how we can kind of build a basic, menu that we can use as kind of like the starting place. Or you could even be like, I don't know, if your character dies or you win, you could go to sort of like, you collect 5, I don't know, rings and you go to you win, the end, or whatever. It could be something like that too. Okay.